Dexter Morgan wasn't just a forensic expert at Miami Metro. He was a master manipulator. For years, he used his position to gain the trust of everyone around him, all while hiding his darkest secret. His calm, composed exterior masked a deadly truth, and his ability to manipulate those closest to him allowed him to lead a double life without suspicion. So, how did Dexter manage to control those around him and keep his murderous secrets hidden for so long? Let's break it down, one colleague at a time. It all starts with James Dokes. From the moment he met Dexter, something didn't sit right with him. Dokes' instincts were sharp, and they told him that Dexter was hiding something. Dexter's calm demeanor stood out against the chaos and violence of the crime scenes they worked on. While everyone else reacted with shock and disgust, Dexter remained eerily composed. And that was exactly what raised Dokes' suspicions. But Dexter wasn't worried. Instead, he manipulated the situation by feeding into Dokes' paranoia, making him appear obsessed and unhinged. Dexter knew exactly how to push Dokes' buttons, how to take advantage of his growing frustration. Each time Dokes came closer to the truth, Dexter subtly shifted the narrative, turning the tables. Dexter didn't need to confront Dokes head-on. He simply played the victim. He was the one being harassed, misunderstood, and unjustly accused. By responding with confusion and defensiveness, Dexter made Dokes' suspicions seem more like an irrational obsession. Dexter perfected the art of gaslighting, subtly making Dokes doubt his own instincts while simultaneously reinforcing his own image as the calm, collected expert. Every time Dokes grew more frustrated, Dexter stayed cool, almost unnervingly so, which made Dokes' concerns seem less credible. Dexter's manipulation was subtle but effective. He didn't need to raise his voice or get aggressive. He simply had to maintain the perfect facade of innocence. But Dokes was just the beginning. What happens when someone else at Miami Metro starts to see through Dexter's mask? How long can Dexter maintain this intricate web of lies before someone finally begins to question his flawless performance? Deborah Morgan, Dexter's adoptive sister, should have been the one person to see through his deception. She loved him unconditionally, perhaps more than anyone else in his life. Dexter knew that, and he played on that love to keep her in the dark. Deborah was fiercely loyal to him, and she trusted him implicitly. To her, Dexter wasn't just her brother. He was her protector, the one person she believed would never let her down, even when things around them seemed suspicious. Every time Deborah questioned him, Dexter subtly turned her doubts into reassurance. He would convince her that he was still the same person she admired. When she grew uncomfortable with his behavior, he made her feel responsible for protecting him, for being the one to understand him. Dexter's manipulation of Deborah was one of the most personal, the most cruel, because he knew exactly how to tug on her heartstrings. He used her loyalty as a weapon, making her believe that his actions, however dark, were justified. He presented himself as a man struggling to control his darker urges, not someone who was consumed by them. To Deborah, it became a matter of protecting him, of believing in him even when she shouldn't. But that trust, so carefully cultivated, was shattered the day Deborah walked in on Dexter, killing Travis Marshall. The foundation of their relationship, built on years of loyalty and love, crumbled in that instant. Dexter did what he always did. He immediately manipulated the situation. He calmed her down, told her what she needed to hear, and twisted the narrative in his favor. Dexter played on her emotions, just as he had done countless times before, making her believe that what she had witnessed was somehow necessary, that it was part of a greater good. The lie continued, and Deborah's confusion was just another step in Dexter's relentless need to maintain control. But even Deborah, with all her love for him, wasn't immune to the unraveling truth. Detective Angel Batista was another key player in Dexter's web of manipulation. Angel, like many others, trusted Dexter completely. He admired his forensic expertise and relied on him heavily during investigations. Dexter wasn't just another colleague. He was the man everyone turned to when they needed answers. He played the perfect role, the reliable expert, the calm and competent professional, always there to solve the case and provide valuable insight. To Angel, Dexter wasn't just the quiet, weird forensic analyst. He was the hero of every investigation. Dexter was the one who always had the answers, the one who knew exactly what to do in every situation. Dexter's mastery of manipulation was in his ability to play the perfect role. He delivered the right information at the right time, never making a mistake, always positioning himself as the expert who could be trusted. By being the model colleague, the one who never raised suspicion, Dexter ensured that no one ever thought to question him. Whenever Angel found himself in a tight spot, Dexter was always there, offering the perfect solution. But Dexter's manipulation of Angel went deeper than just being helpful. He made sure that Angel never looked too closely at him, that he was too comfortable in the belief that Dexter was as normal as they come. He knew that the moment Angel started to question him, his entire facade could come crashing down. So he kept Angel in the dark, making sure that Angel's trust in him stayed rock solid, his perception of Dexter as the good guy never wavering. Dexter's carefully constructed image as the reliable, indispensable forensic expert kept the facade intact for years. The trust that Angel had in him was one of Dexter's greatest assets. Angel saw him as the model colleague, the man who always got the job done, the man who could do no wrong. This trust was exactly what Dexter needed to continue his double life without anyone questioning his actions. Even when Angel saw Dexter's behavior as a little off, he dismissed it as just part of Dexter's quirks. But as always, the truth unraveled. Angel's trust in Dexter shattered, and he was left trapped in a web of manipulation. Maria Laguerta's suspicions were perhaps the most dangerous for Dexter. She was a seasoned investigator, sharp and methodical. Unlike some of her colleagues, Laguerta didn't just rely on gut feelings. She was driven by facts, evidence, and logic. When she found the blood slide at the crime scene, it immediately caught her attention. Her mind went straight to the Bay Harbor butcher, the serial killer who had evaded justice for so long. Without hesitation, she started to connect the dots, and her investigation into Dexter began. Dexter wasn't worried. He knew exactly how to handle this. He didn't confront her suspicion directly. Instead, he used it to his advantage. Dexter was strategic, always calculating his next move. He fed Laguerta just enough information to keep her distracted, steering her away from the truth without ever directly lying. Dexter carefully crafted his role as a reliable ally, someone who was just as invested in solving the Bay Harbor butcher case as she was. He didn't push back against her inquiries, but subtly guided her in the wrong direction, feeding her enough leads to create confusion. Dexter was playing a game, and every time Laguerta came close to the truth, he planted false evidence or manipulated the circumstances to her advantage. He suggested new red herring leads that sent her further off track. With every piece of misdirection, Dexter made her question her own conclusions, eroding her confidence in her investigation. Dexter didn't just stay one step ahead. He planted seeds of doubt in Laguerta's mind, making her believe she was wrong, that her instincts had failed her. This strategic manipulation ultimately led Laguerta to an inevitable dead end. Her pursuit of the truth, once so sharp and unyielding, became her downfall. Dexter's ability to control the flow of information, to push her toward blind alleys, ensured that she would never get close enough to unmask him. Laguerta's tenacity was her strength, but it became her weakness when she couldn't see the manipulation happening right under her nose. But Laguerta wasn't the only one Dexter had under his control. Masuka was the forensic expert who worked alongside Dexter, often with inappropriate humor and lighthearted banter. Despite his comedic exterior, Masuka was no fool. He had a sharp mind, especially when it came to the intricacies of crime scenes. He wasn't the kind of person who would miss a detail, but Dexter knew exactly how to use Masuka's personality to his advantage. By playing the silly but brilliant act, Dexter was able to hide his true nature. The outwardly playful Masuka never questioned Dexter's oddities because he was too distracted by the camaraderie of their work. Dexter's dark side remained well hidden behind the facade of a good-humored, eccentric colleague. Dexter skillfully manipulated Masuka's perception of him as the cool guy, the one who always had the perfect, quirky comment for any situation. Masuka saw Dexter as a bit of an oddball, but never as a threat. Dexter's ability to keep Masuka entertained with jokes and off-color humor kept him at arm's length. Dexter was always the charming, offbeat character in the room, and Masuka, wrapped up in his own eccentricities, didn't feel the need to dig deeper into Dexter's actions. When Dexter did something that could be seen as suspicious, Masuka dismissed it as part of his weird charm. After all, Dexter was just a little eccentric, right? But Dexter's manipulation didn't stop there. He used Masuka's own need for humor and distraction as a tool to prevent any real suspicion from forming. Whenever Masuka began to question Dexter's actions, Dexter deflected with another quip, another odd joke, or a perfectly timed laugh. He knew that by keeping things light, he could easily deflect Masuka's attention away from anything that might be too probing. Masuka was never really a threat to Dexter. He was a tool, a pawn in Dexter's larger game. Dexter kept him entertained and distracted, knowing that Masuka would never think too deeply about his behavior. As far as Masuka was concerned, Dexter was the weird but lovable colleague who always had the answers when it came to forensic work, not someone capable of murder. Dexter knew exactly how to use Masuka's perception of him to keep him from looking too closely. But even the most oblivious characters can have their moments. What happens when Dexter's manipulations finally catch up with him? When the distractions, jokes, and clever deflections can no longer shield him from the truth? Could someone like Masuka, in his own way, uncover a piece of the puzzle? Or would Dexter's grip on his carefully crafted life finally begin to slip? And then there was FBI agent Frank Lundy. Lundy's involvement in the Bay Harbor Butcher case was one of Dexter's biggest threats. Unlike his colleagues at Miami Metro, Lundy wasn't easily swayed by Dexter's charm or professionalism. He wasn't taken in by Dexter's carefully constructed facade. Lundy was a seasoned investigator, methodical and determined. He saw through the layers of deception and recognized the patterns in Dexter's behavior that others overlooked. To Lundy, Dexter wasn't just another forensic expert. He was a potential suspect, a person of interest who could be hiding a dark, deadly secret. Dexter knew that Lundy was dangerous. Lundy's sharp eye for detail, his focus on the truth, made him one of the most formidable threats Dexter had ever faced. Lundy's determination to find the Bay Harbor Butcher only grew stronger with each passing day, and as his investigation into Dexter deepened, it brought him closer to the truth. Dexter knew that if Lundy found the connection between him and the murders, everything he had worked for would come crashing down. He couldn't afford to let this FBI agent expose him. So Dexter did what he did best. He manipulated the investigation. He planted false evidence, steered the case off course, and slowly fed Lundy misleading leads that led him away from the truth. Dexter knew that the more confusion he could create, the longer he could buy himself time. He manipulated every interaction with Lundy, making sure the FBI agent never got too close to cracking the case. Dexter also used Lundy's own ego against him, presenting himself as a useful ally in the investigation. By feeding Lundy just enough information to seem credible, Dexter positioned himself as an asset to Lundy's mission, all while ensuring that Lundy would never piece together the truth. But Lundy was relentless. Even as Dexter thought he had everything under control, Lundy was one step ahead, quietly piecing together the twisted nature of the Bay Harbor Butcher and the connection between the crimes. His obsession with solving the case made him blind to the false trails Dexter laid, but it also kept Dexter on edge. In the end, however, Lundy's focus on Dexter might have been his downfall. His single-minded pursuit of the truth kept him locked onto Dexter. But fate took a different turn. Dexter's carefully crafted manipulations, combined with an unfortunate series of events, led to Sergeant Dokes being framed as the Bay Harbor Butcher. This twist not only diverted Lundy's investigation, but also allowed Dexter to walk away unscathed, his double life intact. Detective Quinn was another member of Miami Metro whom Dexter manipulated, though perhaps more easily than the others. Quinn struggled with his own moral conflicts, often torn between his responsibilities and personal desires. Dexter knew how to exploit this, particularly Quinn's need for recognition and validation within Miami Metro. Distracted by his personal life and ambitions, Quinn became susceptible to Dexter's influence. Dexter fed Quinn just enough information to make him feel important, ensuring his loyalty. Every time Quinn seemed close to stepping out of line, Dexter would pull him back with praise and encouragement. Dexter kept Quinn engaged with cases that appeared significant but never threatened to uncover his darkest secrets. This careful management ensured Quinn remained focused on the surface-level cases, keeping him from getting too close to the truth. But Quinn's blind loyalty wouldn't last forever. There came a moment when he began to sense something was off with Dexter. Quinn started noticing inconsistencies. Something about Dexter didn't add up. Dexter, realizing the risk, had to double down on his manipulations, making sure Quinn's suspicions didn't evolve into full-blown realization. Though Quinn was never a true threat, his growing suspicion marked a pivotal point in Dexter's game. It showed how even the most manipulated could start to piece together the truth. Dexter had carefully crafted Quinn's role, keeping him close but always in the dark. But as Quinn began to question more, Dexter's hold on him began to slip. Dexter's manipulation of Miami Metro wasn't just about hiding his secret, it was about controlling how everyone perceived him. He used his colleagues' trust, their instincts, and their emotions to create a web of lies so complex that even they could never see through it. But in the end, no manipulation lasts forever. Dexter's perfect world began to crack. Every lie he told, every relationship he twisted, eventually brought him closer to exposure. It wasn't just the murders that defined Dexter. It was the careful way he kept everyone under his thumb. Dexter's web of manipulation may have worked for a while, but eventually, the truth has a way of coming to light. Want to see how Dexter's biggest manipulation ultimately unraveled? Make sure to check out our first video. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the twisted psyche of Dexter Morgan.